guys, welcome back to another video, and today I am a homemaking rigs again. So what I thought I'd do is make a video on how to make a clip down. So what I'll do, I'll make a 2-hook clip down just because it's easier to have the full rig in the actual view of the camera, and I'll show exactly how to make that into a 3-hook clip down. There's a lot of people out there obviously that know how to make them, so obviously you don't have to sit through the video. And again, there's obviously going to be, as well the other side of it, there's going to be a lot of people out there that are new to fishing and just want to learn, so this video is obviously more for you. I'll show you exactly what rig components, line and any rig making tools that you need to make them. Obviously again, this is my way of doing it, the way I found easiest. I'm not saying this is the only way of doing it, we all have our own ways of doing things. So, right, I'll give you a quick run through what I use now and get started. Right, so rig components, what I'll do, I'll just quickly run through what you need and then I'll explain into more detail why you need those specific things for the rig as I'm making it. So, start off with rig springs, pack of them, cascade swivels, crimps, and obviously they're going to vary to whatever diameter backbone you're using. In this case I got the large ones just because I normally use between 70 or 80 pound backbone. Because when you crimp them, it does weaken the line slightly, and that is why I'll show you later, but you crimp the very centre of it so you're not crimping the sides to dig into the line at all. But like I said, I'll explain into more detail about that later. 3mm beads, and then I got size 4 swivels for my hook links, and then size 2 or even a size 1 for the backbone of the rig. And then whatever hooks you like to use. I do like the bait holder hooks, get on quite well with them. And when it comes to the bait clips, I myself prefer an Imp over a standard casting snap with a clip on it, and I'll explain in more detail why an Imp is a lot more effective when releasing the hooks than standard clip. I'll explain that more later. And line, like I showed them on my other videos, I use the Xenon line for everything. But in this video, what I'll do again, like I did in my other video, I will use some colored line just so it stands out better in the video. And all you need then is a pair of pliers for crimping, and then I just got some little line snips just to cut the tags. Might as well put that into a side and we'll get started. Right, so that's all the rig components you'll need to make the rig. And what I do, the first thing I do is just spill some rig components into a spool of line just to keep them all in one place, stops them rolling around and falling off the table. You can use a little tray, but just use a spool of line. Right, so the first step I do is tie the hook links. And what I've actually done is I've tied 2 up ready just so you're not sat there watching me tie them up. And what I'll do quickly is skip over to a video on the knot I use for the hook. It's basically just to keep the bait in a lot better condition when you slide it up past the eye of the hook, and it stops the worm sliding down the hook when it's actually out there in the water. Right, so to tie the knot, I go ahead and put the line through the eye of the hook, holding quite a long tag, or pulling quite a long tag through the eye, and I pinch that together to hold it in place. Then I wrap the tag around the hook link 4 times, like so. And on the left there, you've basically created a loop because you wrapped the line around itself. Then I go ahead and put the tag through that loop. And this is where the longer tag comes in useful, because obviously you've pulled that through, and you're now going to put that tag, you're going to wrap it back around itself, come back up 4 times. So that if you had a short tag, it'd be hard to tie. So put it through that loop and wrap it around 4 times. And it's important to go through back up on itself the same amount of times you did originally, just so it sits a lot neater, as you can see. So I'll wet that down. And now you start by just basically just pull it down tight. And that's it. And basically the tag, instead of coming off the knot that way, is facing back up on itself. So cut the tag, and I always leave a little bit, I always leave about 1 centimetre of a tag. And that is for when you thread your worm baits up, or any soft baits, it doesn't rip the bait when you thread it up past the knot. And that also will stop the worm from sagging down on the hook, because obviously that is basically like the hooks I like to use, the bait holder hooks. They got the small barbs facing back up towards the eye to stop the bait falling back down the hook. And that is basically just the same sort of principle, but as a knot. And as well, the knot, most of the time, obviously depends on the thickness of the line and the size of the eye of the hook, it is smaller, so it obviously will slide up a lot better. Right, so that is the knot I use to tie the hook on. Right, so obviously being a 2 hook clip down, you need 2 hook links. The length of the hook link is completely determined on what you're doing, what you're fishing for, and all that sort of thing. I've just done them short, just so when it's all clipped up, you can see the whole rig when I put it together. Right, so one of the hook links has got a size 4 swivel on the end, and then the other hook link has got a cascade swivel. Now, with this cascade swivel, the smaller eye of the swivel is what you tie your hook link to, and the bigger eye with this going intern on the top of it is for sliding up the backbone, which we'll see in a minute. Right, so the next step is by basically just threading all the components and the hook links at the backbone of the rig. So what we'll do now, we'll get started on that. Right, so after tying the hook links up, you're ready now to slide everything onto the backbone of the rig. What I always do, I grab whatever line you can use for your backbone, I always cut that on an angle, just purely because it's so much easier to slide the spring up when the line's cut on an angle. Right, so I go ahead and start by the top hook link. I always put up first. So what I do is slide the bead up just to sit above that swivel. Then I slide the top hook link up first, then another bead, then goes on the spring. What I'll do once all the components are on the backbone, I'll show a photo of it just so you can see the order of them. Then after the spring is another bead, then a crimp, and that is everything you need then for the top hook link. Then for the bottom hook link, go another crimp, a bead, and then your cascade swivel hook link. Now, when you see the cascade swivel in the photo, it has to go on a very specific way to sit right on the backbone, but you'll see that in the photo a lot more clear. So I go slide the cascade swivel up, and then another bead, and then to finish that off, a crimp. Right, so that is all the components needed to tie the rig up. You probably want to see it there, but like I just said, I'll skip to a photo in a bit once they're all on. Right, then I go ahead and tie on my imp. I'll quickly put that together. I always clip a lead onto the imp as well, just makes it easier to tie the knot, to tighten the knot I should say. Right, go ahead and tie the imp on. Back down. Right, so that is tied on. So then all you need to do now is to get the backbone at the right length to then cut it off and tie your swivel on. And to get the right length is by putting on, basically clipping it all up loosely. So I go ahead and get the bottom hook link, put it on the imp, and then hold the cascade swivel in place, and then get the top hook link, put it on the cascade swivel, and then I pull it all tight. Oh, it's all falling off. It does work sometimes. Right, so there we are. So that is all tight. So that's what it's going to look like when it's finished, basically. But that now is basically just to get the finished length of the backbone. So I go ahead and hold the top swivel in place, and then I pull a few inches off, and then I cut that off. And then I tie on my top swivel, which is what you're going to connect your shock leader to. So that's tied on. Right, so that is basically virtually finished. So all it needs doing now is just crimping up to get the tension right on the imp, on the spring, and the imp obviously to hold them all in place. So what I'll do now, I'll put that into a little jig that I've made, and we'll get it all crimped up and finished. Right, so I've got the rig now under tension. So the bottom end of the rig is on the left here and the top on the right. And normally when I'm making rigs, I set my tripod up, my fishing stand up in a room, and I hang the rig and crimp it up that way. But just for the purpose of the video, I've just got it under tension on the table just so it's easier for you to see. So basically the only step now to finish the rig is to get the hookers clipped up and then crimp them in place, and then it's all ready then. Right, so what I go ahead and start by doing is getting the bottom hook link, hooking that onto the imp, and then pulling that up, and then getting the top hook link, putting it on the cascade swivel, and then pulling up the hook link to the top. Now what I do, I slide the spring up, and then the top crimp that crimps the top hook link in place, I crimp that slightly just so it just grips the line, but just enough so you can actually slide it by hand. So what I do then, I pull that up so it's tightish, and then I pinch the hook link to the backbone and I slide that crimp up so it just gives the crimp, the spring, a slight bit of tension in it. And it's hard to explain the amount of tension that you will need in the video, but after a few attempts at the rig and using it and finding out how much tension it needs, you will get the hang of it. So that looks about right there. So what I'd go ahead and do then is fully crimp that up. And what you'll find is better by just crimping the centre of the crimp, because if you crimp the outsides of it as well, sometimes depending on how soft the backbone is, it can dig in, and obviously you're just going to weaken your line. So basically that is all crimped up. You've got your top hook link crimped, so that's holding it all in place. Then all it needs now is bringing the crimp either side of the bottom hook link in place and crimping those. I normally leave a small amount of space either side of the cascade swivel in between the crimps. Crimp that down as well. And that is the 2 hook clip down. And if you're to make a 3 hook clip down, all you do is make another hook link with a cascade swivel. So that will go, so you obviously got one on the bottom and then another one in the middle. So then the top hook link will clip onto the cascade swivel, and then so on all the way back down to the imp. Now, like I said before, the reason, I'll explain why imps are better for a clip down rig than a normal casting snap. Right. So if you can imagine, obviously because the spring is holding your hook links in tension, is trying to pull them back up towards the top of the rig, you're relying on, when that hits the water, you're relying on that sudden release to flip those back up that way. And if you had one of them clips on there, it's not, or it will unclip, but you run a lot more of a risk of it not unclipping, and you will have times, for instance, if you're fishing in strong winds and it holds the rig and your main line tight, and then when it hits the water, it will hold it all tight and then it won't actually unclip it, especially if your rig lands on its side rather than facing down. And if there's tide, it's a few number of things can stop it unclipping with these clips. Like for instance, a pulley rig, no problem, it will unclip. But just purely because of the spring, pulling it back up to the top of the rig, an Imp is by far the best bait clip to use on a clip down. So basically, that is the clip down. I hope you found that helpful. I hope I've explained it right for you to understand. And another thing as well, what you can do is put basically bait stops on your hook link. There's a whole number of ones to use. I normally use power gum and I put a sequin above the hook and then tie some power gum on. There's a few different ones you can use, basically because it's good to have a bait stop, because if you can imagine, that is going to be travelling that way through the air and your bait is going to be wanting to pull back up the hook link. So a worm bait, you do run the risk of a worm bait sliding up the hook link. So it's good to have a bait stop just to stop it sliding back up. I didn't put it on this video just purely because the video is just on how to make a clip down. So I hope you guys found that helpful. I will be doing more rig making videos because when I first started fishing I always found that helpful, so I just figured it'd find it helpful for other people. Right, so that is obviously what it sits like in the water, and that's it. I hope you guys found it helpful. I will be fishing on my next video, so I'll be seeing you on the beach next time. Right guys, so that is the finished article. A 2-hook clip down as you've just seen. And obviously you can make that into a 3-hook clip down if you like, and obviously a 1-hook as well. So yeah, hope you guys found it helpful. Hope you understood the way I explained it all. Did try my best. So I will be doing more videos as well of different types of rigs, and I'll be doing some videos even just tying even the basic things like the shock leader knots and that sort of thing, because obviously, like I said before, there's a lot of people that are new to fishing that always want to learn. I found it very helpful when I was learning as well, when I was beginning. So yeah, I'll do a fishing video next, out on the beach catching some fish hopefully. So until then, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.